Our new sponsor, Better, is a fast-growing daily fantasy sports app. When you sign up using promo code PLAYBOOK in all caps, you receive a free $10 and a 100% deposit match up to $25. Welcome to the NBA Hangout presented by Playbook Sports. I'm your host, Brandon. With me, as always, is Dave. Dave, how are you?
Brandon, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're here in the home stretch of the NBA season. Well, a little over 15 games left. We know more or less what which team is about. So we just want to check out some trends heading into this home stretch. How was your last couple of weeks in the NBA?
Yeah, pretty good, right? So the time after the trade deadline is interesting, and I feel like it's the most honest time in the NBA. Teams have determined what they are. Are you a team that's competitive and you're just trying to walk into the playoffs with a good seeding, like a Knicks or a Cleveland or a Denver? Are you, contending for the top overall, record, like an OKC, Spurs, Detroit? Are you just making the plan, just trying to like a Charlotte, just trying to be scrappy and show what you've got? By now, if you're a tanker, you've been determined to be a tanker and you are fully in, right? So, it becomes that honest time about the season, but also because of that, you get that good reflection of what your team is and where they are. So, the Raptors, for example, I will always bring up the Raptors because it's the team that I watch a lot, pay attention to a lot. They'll be a playoff team, but they're not ready to compete with the best. The record is really bad against teams that are over 500 and super duper bad against teams who are top four in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Raptors, it's interesting because they're going to learn that, they're close, but they're not there. And for them, the lesson of the playoffs won't be like experience. It'll be, what are we missing? Yeah. And how can we address that? So yeah, I find the home stretch to be pretty interesting in that sense. Like, as I say, I feel like it's the most honest time in the NBA season.
Yeah, we got our annual Heat Hawks Magic play-in set up. That's looking like it's ready to go. All the teams have
don't forget those Bulls. Oh no, the Bulls are bad this year, aren't they?
The Bulls, they're missing the invitation. We're missing them. Charlotte has been taking their place this year. So Charlotte has been, quite incredible. We were supposed to talk about them last episode, but we kind of ran out of time. But still 7-3 in their last 10. They've looked like a much better team. Cunningham has overtaken Cooper Flag in this last home stretch for Rookie of the Year, for the odds-on winner for Rookie of the Year. It's flipped to Khan's side now, as it was just Cooper's.
Durability.
He's breaking all the durability. He's breaking all these 3-point records. He's the fastest to all these 3-point marks. I think it was 200 or something like that last time. So he's going to continue to break those records, and looking bright over there for Charlotte.
Yeah, it'll be a good time in Charlotte. They gotta, no offense, Charlotte and Charlotte fans, much like my Raptors, you need a better jersey. Right? Am I wrong?
I like the Charlotte design these years.
Yeah,
I think it's the most exciting. Well, not most exciting, but one of the exciting things about them is their little color scheme and I guess I'll always favor the old school, the Muggsy Bogues, Larry Johnson. I think this reminds me of it a little bit. It gives me the vibe enough that I'm cool with it. And you throw a little purple, which the Raptors refuse to give me all the time. At least Charlotte will throw me the purple here and there. I'll be favorable to you.
I mean, my favorite jersey still is that Vice City Heat jersey. Give me something that's bold and dynamic like that. That's kind of what I want from Charlotte. I'm gonna rock a Cunningham or Brandon Miller jersey. I just want it to feel a little bit more impressive. Yeah. Yes, the legacy and the history is nice, but it's always just been kind of like a muted color set. So
you want
a little bit more.
The team pops. They play with a lot of pop. You just want to match the excitement.
Yeah.
And we were talking about impressive. Talking about impressive. We gotta talk about these
Um,
impressive. We gotta talk about these impressive players. At the
do
top of the
you think?
MVP.
Do you just on Charlotte one
Yeah,
more
yeah,
time?
yeah.
Do you think they've got enough to make noise, or are they a team that's going to look to the playoffs to try and address like what will we need going forward? Right? They've still got like Miles Bridges at the power forward. He's a pretty solid player. Is it Maxime Renault playing center for them?
Yeah, I think he's
Who's
getting
playing
most of
center,
those.
or is it Cochrane?
Or Ryan. But yeah, but it's solid. It's like just a
Yeah.
solid center play. Like yeah, I think with Charlotte, like when I look at like this plan, like as it stands now, they would play the Hawks first, and then they would play, if they win that, then they'll play the loser of Orlando and the Heat. If
Mm-hmm.
standing bears out as it does. Honestly, I think in any of those matchups they can win. I think the hard thing for Charlotte would be winning 2 in a row at high
Yeah.
level, because they just haven't had to do it before. Like this iteration of them haven't had to do it before. I mean, even since the last time they're in the playoffs, I don't think they've won 2 in a row. So I think that's just going to be a trick for them, just to win the 2 in a row. But if they can sneak into the 8th spot, I think they just have to win 1 of 2 and they can get into the playoffs. I think that's where they have their best chance of doing so. And we still have a couple games left here, so there's a chance that they do sneak into that 8th spot. And if they do, I think they have a chance of making the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, I think they're easy out. I don't think it's going to be like the Raptors, where you'll find out a little bit more about like what specifically you need for like what positions or like what archetypes you need. I think for the Hornets, it'll just be like good overall experience for all those guys who will all have to grow more into their roles as they get older.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because they would probably match up against like Detroit. So you've got like a LaMelo Cade like matchup though. Like,
Super fun.
yeah, couple of 6'7", 6'8" kind of guys who can play make, who can drive, who can shoot.
The real battle there is Concanippo versus Duncan Robinson. That is the real the movement.
Come on. They're just gonna put a SAR on poor Knipple and just like he's gonna be draped all over.
Well, I don't know, because you got to have someone on Brandon Miller too, so like it makes it harder. Like they have to have guys all around, floating all around.
Ron Holland,
you got him too. Yeah, you got Wing. That's the thing about Detroit. I guess we'll get into Detroit now, like talking about Cade and
sure.
Cade and like his MVP chances, because he's made a lot of noise recently, with Shea being out for a little bit. You have Jokic, who's been out for a while, so it's given an opportunity for other players to kind of step up. Jaylen Brown was a name that we mentioned him a couple weeks ago. We did mention Cade a couple weeks ago too, but now it's sounding like more of a real thing. Do you think that Cade has a real MVP shot this year?
Yes. And tell me, do you have his numbers up in front of you?
Yeah. So for Cade this year, he's averaging 25 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 1 block. Where he kind of differs from Shea and Jokic is the efficiency.
That was my question. Yeah, Cade has always struggled with efficiency.
Yeah, he's shooting 34% from 3 on 6 attempts, and he's shooting 46 from the field on about 20 attempts. Where Shea is shooting 55 from the field, 38 from 3, and you have Jokic shooting 57 from the field, 40 from 3. So it's just the efficiency there that's really separates them. Even turnover wise, you have Cade coming in with the most turnovers out of the 3. Actually, he's tied with Jokic. He's at 3.7 turnovers, but he has the ball majority of the time. I mean, all 3 of those guys have the ball majority of the time, so I'd say it's pretty even there. But it's just the efficiency stuff that kind of separates them. But I would also give Cade maybe the edge defensively over those 2 guys, as he does do it game in and game out on a more consistent basis than Shea or Jokic do it. For sure. Even though I still feel like Shea gets the bad end of the stick when it comes to the defense, because they're a top defensive team, and he's one of the reasons why, because he could be versatile with his size and length and how he disrupts passing lanes. It's just his on-ball defense isn't always there all the time. Typically the case for your top player. But I think Cade brings that end of the court, brings the effort on that end of the court a little bit more consistently. So I would give him the edge there. Yeah. So those are the numbers.
I think Cade has done an incredible job of growing as a player since coming into the league. What his numbers kind of tell me more than anything else is that Detroit made a mistake in not not trading for another like offensive outlet, right? You've got a player who can average 10 assists. He knows when to pass the ball, right? But if he's got bad efficiency, to me, that tells me that he still believes that when the time comes, he needs to be the one to score the ball, right? He can run the offense. He's running well. He's getting guys involved, moving things around, but there's also a certain amount of assists that come along with just being the point guard and running the offense, right? Can you take 6 of those and just be like, hey, any point guard running the offense in Detroit should average 5 to 6 assists, right? So then the extra assists you attribute to Cade himself. So because he does average so many, he knows what to do. But because he doesn't have another offensive outlet, he has to step up maybe more often than he needs to. So, I think back to the trade deadline and Michael Porter Jr. sitting there, and he should have been a guy that, in my opinion, Detroit should have went out and got, just because you need that extra little bit of scoring punch every once in a while, right? And it comes from different guys. Look at Oklahoma getting Jared McCain. It seemed like a small deal at the time, but it gives the scoring punch behind Shea. And I think had they gotten Cade, a Michael Porter Jr., a Lauri Markkanen, just somebody who can just take that load off him just a little bit, I think it'd be easy to say, like, yeah, he's really kind of blossomed into the unquestionable MVP. Right now, he's just kind of in the mix, and it's more like a pick your fighter, if you will, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing going for Cade is if they do finish with the best record in the NBA, right now they have the best win percentage in the NBA. So if that continues and they do have the best record, best player in the best team, usually gets you some points as well. And that would honestly steal some away from Shea, which I think he's rested on for most of the year, just being the best player on the best team. We haven't had to look too much deeper into it because they're so far ahead of everybody else. But as the season has gone on, teams have started to catch up. Spurs are close. Detroit's ahead. I think you have to look at other things too now, and not just rely on, okay, Shea's the best player on the best team. We have to give it to him. I don't think you have to give it to him this year, even though I would love to give it to him.
So it becomes that question of what do you like, and it's kind of unfortunate that guys like Cade and guys like Jaylen Brown had to like go to the media and say, guys, you got to start considering me for the MVP. Because, without that, would you have Perkins saying that Jaylen Brown's the MVP? Would you have Barkley saying that, Cade Cunningham's the MVP, right? Without the prompting, I don't know, when it comes to the best players in the league, we often kind of just stick to the same best players, right? Mm-hmm. LeBron, Steph, Luka, right? And there's not a lot of critique there. So to even break in, the fact that you have to campaign yourself is kind of frustrating in my opinion, but that's a minor quirk of the system and just getting the acknowledgement you deserve. Right.
Yeah, no, a lot of these awards come down to like how popular you are to the media in general. Like that was the issue with like why Bam didn't get a Defensive Player of the Year award all those years. It's like why Jaren Jackson gets it over him or Evan Mobley gets not over him, even though he probably was the better defensive player for those years. Is because he doesn't have this media juggernaut behind him as such as Jaren Jackson Jr., who everyone had the recognition coming out of university. Same thing with Evan Mobley, top 4 pick, players that have been like looked at hard and looked at more closely than like a Bam Adebayo. So yeah, I think those things definitely come into factor. And you gotta, you gotta be one of those players that's bold enough to go to the media and make your case sometimes, because you're not always going to get that opportunity from the media. And sometimes these players wait too long. I remember Bam trying to make his case, like I think it was around like this time, one of those years. It's like it's too late. At this point, you can't be making the case. You gotta have that seed in the media's mind from the beginning. But shout out to Cade, shout out to for Jaylen Brown. They did it mid-season, and I think it came at a point where guys were hurt. Shea was hurt, Jokic was hurt, so they had to look at other players as well, just in case those guys missed that 65 game threshold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's It is, yeah. It's just the power of the media and the talking head as to who the best player is, right? Like you brought up Evan Mobley, right? Evan Mobley is a Bill Simmons darling, right? Bill Simmons has this unique ability to shape a lot of the way that the basketball media talks about the sport, right?
Marcus
He's
Smart was
just
another
had that
defensive player.
influence. Yeah. And it's, the guy averages 15 points. He plays good defense. Is he Depot though? Is he better than Wembanyama? Is he better than Bam? Is he better than, a Scotty
Chet.
Barnes flying all over the place? Chet, yeah, Chet's unbelievable, right? And then like you just you forget about guys like Rudy. All Rudy does is play defense.
I was looking at the numbers the other day, and like Rudy's like on off defensively again. I think every year we like go through like defensive player of the year. Again, it's like one of the top players in the NBA.
Yeah.
No matter what, his impact is just invaluable. No matter the year, no matter how much you hear about him or not, you just can bet on that he has impacted the defensive end of the court.
Absolutely. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah, it's interesting. So fans, if you got a guy and you think he's underrepresented, just start talking about him all the time.
Talk about him.
Just get him into the conversation, right?
So I guess to close this off, do you see Cade getting this MVP nod this year, or is it more of a thing that might carry momentum into next year if Detroit can keep it up and get some help along him?
I feel like this is one of the most open years for the MVP talk. Last year I was pretty into like Jokic. So when Shea won it, I was like, whoa, that was Jokic's award. This year, if it goes to Jokic, if it goes to Shea, if it goes to Wemby, if it goes to Cade, it all makes sense. If it goes to Luka, I'll be like, But the other guys, yeah, I think a top 4 is really kind of developing. And I feel bad for Jaylen Brown just a little bit because he had cracked into that conversation, but it feels like he's just slipping out of it almost through no fault of his own. He seems to still be putting up great points, playing amazing two-way play, but people get tired of Boston.
Yeah, it's like the efficiency is just like so much worse than like these top guys. Like me too. Like I would like. I think the award for Boston's going to come from Coach of the Year with Mazzulla getting. That would be where my. I think that's where they're going to get their flowers. For how they've handled this year. For a team that was supposed to be not really in the playoff question that much, to be the number 2 seed in the East and looking like a legitimate contender going into the playoffs. So I think for them the award is going to come from Coach of the Year if I had to pick one for Boston.
Comeback player of the year, baby. Jason Tatum.
5 on 5.
Love his game. Don't like his interviews, but love his game.
that's
sorry, Jason. I just think you're boring, dude. You might be great. I've never met you, but I just
you're fine.
I always thought you're kind of boring.
Don't have the most personality. It's okay.
It's okay. You got game. You got hella game.
And Jaylen Brown got the personality, so you're all right.
Yeah. That's why they're a good pairing. Why did they ever want to break them up? Silly Boston.
I wanted it to, but it's okay. Which deadline? Yeah, I think we could move on from the MVP talk. I think that pretty much gives us a roundabout view about like what we should expect to happen with that award. I would be surprised if Wemby did. Yeah. I think Wemby can miss like 4 games. We had it up a few minutes ago, but I think it's like 4 games. Wemby can miss. If he doesn't miss those 4 games, I do wonder how voters are going to treat him for Defensive Player of the Year and for these MVP stuff. Because I think the Spurs being also a number 2 seed in the NBA, or number 2 seed in the West, and top 4 seed in the NBA, I think comes as a great surprise as well. I think we saw this team entering this year as a play-in team, more or less, still young team, up and coming team. We saw Wemby before. His impact wasn't as this impactful as it was this year. So I think for that jump as well, Wemby should be highly considered if he does end up meeting the game's threshold.
I almost feel like with Wemby, there's this hesitance in that, like, once he becomes the MVP favorite, I think people kind of think like he's going to stay there. You know what I mean? Like he'll dominate the league for 10 years, kind of the way that like LeBron did. And they're almost trying to like hold off. Like, don't
Let's
let
not
him
do it
do
too
it just
soon.
yet. Yeah. Looking at the FanDuel the FanDuel odds, they still have Shea at a minus 260 with everybody else at a plus, Jokic plus 460, Cade plus 1,000, Victor plus 2,500, right?
Wow.
Jaylen
Yeah.
Brown plus 65, and Luka plus 1,000. So the sports books still like Shea and Jokic a lot more than Cade or Wemby. But what does the narrative say, right? And will Shea and will Jokic make games played?
Yeah,
Right.
that's a huge question, I think, especially for Jokic, who can just miss one more game. So he has to be.
And he's fighting guys right now.
He's fighting guys right now. So who knows if he can meet that threshold. Moving on to the NBA trade deadline. So last time we talked, it was the NBA trade deadline. So since then, which trade do you feel has helped the most? Helped one of these teams the most?
The trade. So it's challenging, right? Because you want to look at the trades of like stars first, right? That's what you think of when you think of the NBA trade deadline. You think of like, oh my gosh, Trae Young got traded. Anthony Davis got traded. Jaren Jackson Jr. got traded. None of these guys are playing. And none of these guys are playing for winning teams.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Despite them being like stars, they're not really helping a team win, right? So my first thought is James Harden to Cleveland, who has hurt his thumb, and so it feels incomplete. Also with James Harden, like we've seen this a lot. We've seen this a lot before. Like he goes to the contender and there's just something missing. There's always just something missing. And it's hard to say what it is. So Cleveland feels like a team of like hyper talented players that all have like one thing missing, right? And it feels like they've just tried to cram as many of those guys together to hopefully balance each other out. But it's hard to say with them. I'm really disappointed Harden got hurt because I would have really been interested to see his effect on that team going into the playoffs. Now we kind of have to wait for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that comes to mind to me. Is there anyone that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, but before we get to there, I think we'll stick with the Cavs. Like I was wondering like if this is a threat now. I think that there was a report going around that Harden's going to try and play through this injury, and not take the surgery and then get it afterwards, which also that has a wrinkle too. Because I think it's something where it might be like pain tolerance, so he might be able to play through it depending on. I don't think he can make it much worse.
He's got the Colin Murray Boyle's thumb.
Yeah, so he's gonna figure out like if he can do that or not, if it's feasible for him to play through it, and if it is feasible, I think we can still see something with this team. Which the one thing that's been a
shooting hand,
I should know, but I don't remember which hand it is. But the one thing that has been nice since the trade, because I agree with you, I think this would have been one of my more favorable trades since like most of the stars have either been sent to trade to tanking teams or have just been injured and not playing. Even the Kuminga trade, like he just come back last game, he looked good in that one game, but Jalen Johnson wasn't playing, so it's hard to really evaluate like how that really looks. But the thing with the James Harden trade was that it really unlocked Jared Allen. We know that James Harden likes to play with a rolling big. Mobley's not that as much. Mobley's a little bit more versatile. But Jared Allen is like your Clint Capella. It's like your Dwight Howard of the Rockets. Like that's the prototype player that you pair with a James Harden. And he seemed to really elevate his game once James Harden was on the team. So I think with the Cavs having that threat, it opens up Donovan to just kind of be the scorer. He doesn't have to be like the playmaker and scorer anymore. I even feel like when Darius Garland was there, Darius Garland also being hurt a lot, but even when they were there, they would still kind of lean Donovan to kind of be their playmaker. I think with Harden there, this is your playmaker. You can put the ball in his hands. He can get the play started. Donovan can be your play finisher, and we know what type of play finisher Donovan can be when he's in the groove. So I think as a fit, I think it can work out well. I still think they need a proper wing. Like Jalen Tyson has been all right. He's been good. They haven't had Strus this year, but I think they really do need a wing to really balance out that lineup. And I still kind of wish that the Garland trade was made with the intent to bring back a wing instead of getting another guard. But I think for the guard that they got, it will help. In the meantime, I don't know if it makes them any more of a contender than I would have thought of before. Like, I don't think Harden raises their ceiling that much more. I think he kind of keeps their floor from bottoming out instead of really raising much.
Yeah, it almost feels like the one player that would complete that team is Andrew Wiggins.
Wiggins would be nice. Give us some picks.
Yeah, you know, the only challenge with Wiggins is he's got a bit of a high cost, but there you've got a player who, you know, doesn't have to be number one in the offense. His athletic, can play defense, can shoot, can play his role really well. You know, like Wiggins got a lot of slander coming into the NBA, you know, being the top pick, you know, is Maple Jordan, all this nonsense. But, you know, Golden State proved that he's a really good player on the right type of team. And he's gone to Miami and he's just continued to be a really good player on the right type of team and system. And he just looks like the player that would complete a Cleveland really well.
But, I think he would.
I don't know if they could ever get him.
I think he wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know if they can. I at least that archetype, they need to like really hone in. Donovan Mitchell, I think, has signaled that like if they don't make another deep playoff run, I don't think he's going to re-sign with Cleveland outright. Like they're going to have to like do some work to make sure that to make sure that he's a staple there if they do want him to be a staple there. And I think that starts with like treating this off season. Whenever it comes for them, if it's first round out, second round out, conference finals, whenever they do peter out, I think you got to take this off season and really look for that archetype and make sure that starting lineup has really no holes in it moving forward, because I think they can do something special with Donovan Mitchell there. It's just they got to have the right Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley there. I think you just got to figure out the rest of your starting lineup and make sure it's sound.
Is it a challenge that the rest of the starting lineup is so talented? Like, you know, you may want to play Evan Mobley at center, but you've got a talented center in Jared Allen. And are you getting the right type of return to even consider moving him?
And I think before you made this move for Harden, I think Mobley for sure is a guy you're keeping, and you're going to move with Jared Allen to make the team fit a little bit better. But now you have Harden, who works better with a player like that. I think that kind of changes your outlook of how you're building this thing. If Harden is someone that you're going to keep in the long term, or not. But if he is, and I think you got to look at a Jared Allen as someone that you like. And then what does that do with Mobley? I think Cavs got a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer this offseason whenever that comes for them.
Yeah, unless they win it all, in which case they just plan a parade. And they're like, we're the best. It all
do whatever you
out.
want. Everyone gets matches. Yeah. But I think the other trade that really is starting to bear fruit is the OKC trade for Jared McCain. Like that trade so far, they went and got a young guy on a rookie scale contract, give up a couple firsts, as they have plentiful, so that's nothing to them. It's really they can't even.
They almost had to give up those firsts just to save money.
Yeah, so they get someone, they get a rookie player on a controllable contract, and someone who is making an immediate impact right away. Like Jared McCain has come in, he's scored the ball well off the bench. He's provided them with another offensive option for a team that does struggle on the offensive end, especially with Jalen Williams being hurt a lot this year. He's missed a ton of games, so just having someone reliable to come off the bench, get you a three, do a little bit of playmaking when they need to, not too much, but just to be someone that could play off of Shea when he's going as well. Another player that can play off of Shea, I think, is very valuable for OKC. And I really like what they did with their move at the deadline.
I agree. You know, a lot of this actually stems back to the Dallas Mavericks. McCain becomes expendable because Philadelphia gets Quentin Grimes for basically nothing, right?
Caleb Martin.
Yeah. And you have to ask yourself, if Dallas didn't get Cooper Flag, what would the conversation be around Dallas? Are they the most incompetent, worst run team in the NBA?
Because that Caleb Martin trade. It was like Caleb Martin. I think they gave up a pick too. Like it was absurd. I think it was like Quentin Grimes and a pick for Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
That trade is so
And that's after
underlooked.
trading Luka.
I don't know if it was after or was it before. It might have been before. It was around the same time.
Yeah.
But it got so overlooked because of the Lucas stuff that it's like that trade is abysmal. Like it is so bad. Caleb Martin hasn't done anything for Dallas whatsoever, and Quentin Grimes went on to be a fantastic role player, who has shown like stretches of scoring 20 plus multiple times in an effective winning way. Like he's been a solid NBA player, and you just gave him up for. It's absolutely insane what that trade was like.
Nothing.
As bad as the Luka trade was, I think that one was. I want to say almost equally as bad to the team because it was just so like no one was even like offering anything like that for Caleb Martin at that point in time. He barely got a contract.
What did they even get back for Anthony Davis?
They got some young guys and some picks, like 2 or 3 picks, but it was like some young guys as well. But
like,
nothing.
I can't even remember this trade. Yeah,
nothing super like notable. Like
no, so this is basically what you gave up for Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Chris Middleton, who might be waived soon. Tyus Jones,
yeah.
I think also waive. Marvin Bagley, 2 picks, 3 seconds. AJ Johnson.
Marvin Bagley, who the Wizards signed on a minimum and just it's been having a decent season. Yeah.
Just do miss
just like it's astounding. Like Dallas,
and this is with the new
embarrassed about what
this is with done. New management too. This is not the Nico Harrison trade. This is a new management, and they still wow.
However, they could end up being the luckiest franchise in the NBA because they super luck into Cooper Flag, like crazy luck into him, right? My current NBA 2K hack is acquiring Cooper Flag in the last draft. Either if I'm playing 26, I just trade for him, or 25, I use the draft to get him. And then in the next draft, I get AJ DeBanza. And then these 2 wings make me unbeatable. Like I can put anybody else on the team and I will win, according to the computer. I will win everything. And they could pull this off.
They could do this. And then
like
they don't
Dallas
even
could get another top 3 pick and get DeBanza. And suddenly they just have these 2 wings who just rule the NBA for a decade.
Yeah, they could.
And they're a terribly run team. They don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it.
We need anti-tanking rules now.
Well, I guess we can. Yeah, I think we get into it. That's tanking overhaul. So Shams and Barkley likes it.
Whoa, Barkley, he hates tanking.
Get the tankers out of it. That's what Adam Silver said.
It is a tank, but
so Shams came out.
I'm gonna let him out of the room.
Yeah. Take a quick pause. We are good. We are back.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience.
Barkley got really excited about tanking, about punishing tankers, just like Adam Silver did.
Barkley Silver.
Barkley Silver. So the NBA, I think it was, what's it called? The Games Committee had a little meeting around the trade deadline to discuss ways to curb tanking. And some of the ways that were discussed was first round picks can be protected only top 4 to top 14 plus, under top 4 and over top 14. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or at a later date. They would no longer allow teams to pick top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. Teams can't pick top 4 in the year after making the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year team records. 2-year records. Lottery extended to include all playing teams, flatten odds for all lottery teams. So those are some of the proposals that they came up with. Which ones they'll still keep, which ones they won't go with. I guess we'll know it at a later time. I guess for me, the only ones I think essentially need to happen to curb what they want to curb is the last 2, which were lottery extends to all playing teams and you flatten all the odds for all lottery teams, so there's no difference between what you get is a true lottery at that point. You don't know what you're gonna get. I think getting the playing teams in there gives them incentive to keep playing hard, because you can get the little playing revenue, maybe even get playoff games, stuff like that. So it gives owners incentive, it gives players incentive, and all of that. And I think you shouldn't be punishing teams that are actually trying to compete and not ever having a chance to get a top pick just because they've wanted to do well. I think there should be some way to incentivize them. So if the odds are flattened and they're included into the lottery, I think that's a way to just have everyone be competitive for the full entire year.
Yeah, I think those are the most important. The other ones feel the team that I think of a lot when I read these rule proposals is the Utah Jazz. And it's because, like, if I'm not mistaken, Utah is partly tanking to protect their pick, right? A pick they shipped out and they want to keep it. Which, yeah, I don't like that, right? So I really do kind of like that rule about you can't protect top three, because yeah, you kind of like that the teams tanking to protect a pick feels like a very 25-26 season thing, and it more than tanking itself, it feels really dirty, because it's like, a couple of years ago we entered into a good faith negotiation and this pick was involved.
Right.
And we saw ourselves as a team that would be further along, but due to our incompetence, we're not where we want to be. And so we want to manipulate an old deal, right? And that one kind of makes sense to me, because I don't like that manipulation of an old deal. You make the deal, you move on, you deal with the consequences, right? If that pick, like look at New Orleans right now, right? Chances are they gave away a really good pick for Derek Queen, right? But that's the world they have to live in.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. So I kind of like that one. And then, like, a lot of it goes into, like, you can't be bad for so many consecutive years in an attempt to build talent. Yes, it's worked out for teams. Look at Detroit. Look at OKC. Look at San Antonio.
The Spurs,
right? Like, these are the best teams in the league, and they've done it this way.
Yeah, and the Spurs in particular, they go from Wemby to Castle to Harper, like just three players were just wild. Like the best players in the draft, more or less. Talked about at least if not best players, in top 3 players in each draft. They just end up getting, because they get top 4 picks every year.
And then, you've got Utah, who's been trying to do that strategy, but the lottery odds haven't hit for them, right? So what do? They double down. They continue, right? But what does it mean to their fan base? At the end of the day, yes, you're trying to create a competitive team so that your fans can enjoy winning, but at what cost, right? Like, when you're this bad for this long, this is when teams talk about relocation. This is how, in the past, teams have used continuous poor performance to prompt a relocation. And that really, in my opinion, harms the sport more than anything else, right? You have a dedicated group of fans. You cannot play this sport at this level without the fan base, right? This is a market game. We give our money to you so you can be multimillionaires and entertain us, right? But if you don't live up to your side of the deal, like, if I'm a season ticket holder in Utah right now, I'm furious. What am I paying for? I'm paying for, Danny Ainge, who's supposed to be the best in the business. Do something, Danny.
Yeah.
Right? No. Build me a team.
And when you talk about like just the fans in general, it's like when you go into like these play-in situations, you have fans now arguing with should they even make the play-in? Or should we just fall out the play-in? Like that's a consistent debate among like Heat Twitter, especially since we're playing darlings where you just love to play in.
Yeah.
So that's
listen to me last year. I was pro tanking for the Raptors.
It's like you don't want to make the play-in because you want to make sure that you secure like a lottery pick, and it's like that shouldn't be the case. Like you should be able to have a team that's underwhelming, not doing what it should be, but they shouldn't be punished for trying to win games. And I think just including play-in teams into that lottery, looking at like the way that you protect certain picks, even looking at the Stephion rule. I heard things floated around like this is like not floated on by anybody in particular, but just like random discussion being talked about is like Steffion rule, like on the receiving end, can you receive like the way that you receive picks? Like you shouldn't be allowed to receive, So like doing it, just playing with some of these things that we haven't like looked at in a long time, I think is some ways to just reform some of the way that we keep teams competitive, especially since the NBA does want to add 2 more teams. They're talking about adding Vegas and Seattle. Seems like it's more and more going to happen. So if you're adding more teams, you don't want that to just add to more teams tanking. You want them to be more teams that are competitive, that are trying to win games. And I think now would be a perfect time to implement some of these rules to kind of curb some of that stuff.
Well, and it's like, I've heard people float the idea that you abolish the draft altogether, which I really don't like. I think the draft is very important, especially for competitive balance, right? Even if you cap earnings, right? You say, oh, a rookie can't make more than $5 million a year, right? A rookie in New York City makes a lot more than $5 million a year versus a rookie in Sacramento, right? So there are markets that would dominate in a non-draft structure. It would be LA, it would be New York, it would be Miami, it would be Boston. But if you're not one of these teams, like, do you really want this? So you got 4 teams who want this, right? And Miami, like we talked about it the other week, is Miami even falling out of that because they're not pushing all the chips all in to support the players that they have, where do we land? So I believe that the draft is important to create competitive balance. What it also does is it creates kind of like a loyalty. You look at like a Giannis. Part of the problem with Giannis is he's really loyal to Milwaukee. And that only comes because he was drafted there, right? So
there's no other reason why he would feel that way.
Like the guy's from Greece. Come on. But he doesn't like cheese that much.
You create these bonds. you create these bonds with these players. Lowry with Raptors is an example. It's like you just create these bonds with cities that just doesn't happen like in other ways, and just happens through sport. Through draft is one of the ways that can happen. For sure. And I think the draft should still be around. Maybe the way that they do it can change and stuff like that. But I haven't been. To me, the drafts. I understand where the thinking goes with like just giving freedom to the players, and you want rookies to have a better, more of a say into where they go. But I think there is something to say of like having these teams being able to draft players at their positions, and I just think they need to find more ways to make it a little bit more fair so that more teams can get these players. You're not always going to a Utah, Detroit, San Antonio. That's where my focus would be. And if that fails, then maybe then we could look at abolishing things.
Yeah, I like the idea of just kind of dealing with the odds a little bit more. There was the blind freezing of the lottery odds. I don't know if I like the blind freeze.
That one's tricky to me.
Yeah,
even if 1 year it's like it froze in December, you didn't tell nobody. That's pretty early. That's pretty
or
early.
Even the trade, even if it is the trade deadline, like
freeze at the trade deadline,
really early.
Yeah, it just feels a little. I get what they're trying to do though. It's like you want to keep it up in the air so teams can't have like this, because it feels like right now the trade deadline happens and then teams are like, okay, we are a tanking team. We're gonna start tanking now. We're gonna start sitting guys. Who needs a surgery? You want some eye surgery?
Utah is very, very good about handling. Once again, it comes back to Utah. Like, why is this team so bad?
It's crazy. Like, just be good. Like, you're doing all these things to be bad. Just be good. You have some good young talent.
Yeah. Exactly. Support them. Let them play. Like, I don't know. There is too much value in tanking at the moment, and that's why everybody does it.
I also think that we see like these drafts every so often where it's like we have like, this is a highly touted draft of like five deep. So I think you get the extreme tanks when these drafts come along. I feel like when Zion was going to be up for grabs, I think there's some extreme tanking going on like that season too. So I feel like it also just comes in waves. Like, no one was tanking during the Zachary tank like draft. No one was no one was giving fake surgeries for everybody for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it is. I don't know. It's tricky, and I'm really glad that the league is actually trying stuff, and I'm really glad that the league has said, like, guys, like, despite your objections, we're going to do something.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to make the product better. You're here to compete within our regulations. Yeah. So, people often don't like Adam Silver, but I honestly think he's doing a pretty good job.
I think this one he got right. I think this is what, certain things I feel like he's missed the mark on. He tries a lot of things sometimes, and that could be frustrating. The gambling stuff I don't love how he handles the gambling stuff, but I think the one thing that he will do is he'll try things. That's one thing we've learned from him. He'll try things, and that's not easy to do for a lot of people. A lot of people get stuck in the status quo and just keep doing what's going on, but he's someone who will try different things all the time. I think I'm good. Is there anything else before we head out?
Not a ton. One of the things we still need a resolution on is the aspiration. Kind of scandal, but we all know the story there. We're waiting for Adam to do his job. I think that one's just going to stretch into the off season. I think they don't want to punish the Clippers as much as the fan base and the media might be calling for. So by long playing it out, it gets further and further from mind's eye. And so my guess is the Clippers get a $10 million.
I think Clippers get a fine
in the middle of the off season. Yeah,
and Kawhi probably gets his contract ripped up or something like that. And then it'll be more on Kawhi than it will be on I think the Clippers.
Yeah. Sorry, Barks is back.
Barks is back. Yeah. He wants to get his tanking words in.
Yeah, he's really got issues with tank. Yeah, even though he's built like a tank.
There's jealousy there.
Yeah, he watches basketball. Everybody, just know he's a good boy. He's the goodest of the good boys. Yeah.
Anyways, that will do it for this episode of the NBA Hangout. You can follow us at the NBA Hangout. Presented by Playbook Sports. You can follow me at BJAY93_. You can follow Dave here whenever we do a show. Thank y'all for hanging out. Peace.